They shall go forward, Kate, at thy command. Obey the bride, you that attend her. Go to the feast, revel and domineer, carouse full measure to her maidenhead. Be mad and merry, or go hang yourselves. But for my bonny Kate, you must with me. Nay, look not big, nor stamp, nor stare, nor fret. I will be master of what is mine own. She is my goods, my chattel, she is my house, my household stuff, my field, my barn, my horse, my ox, my ass, my anything. And here she stands, touch her, whomever dares. I'll bring mine action against the proudest he that stands my way in Padua. Romeo, fetch thy weapon, we are beset with thieves. Rescue thy mistress, if thou be a man. Fear not, sweet wench, they shall not touch thee, Kate. I'll buckler thee against 1,000,000.
Death's name is much more mighty than its deeds. Thy parceling this power have made it more. As many sands as these my hands can hold are but my handful of so many sands. Than all the world, and call it but a power, easily taken up and quickly thrown away. But if I stand to count them sand by sand, the number would confound my memory, and make many thousand millions of a task, but briefly no more indeed but one. These quarters, squadrons, and these regiments before, behind us on either hand, are but a power. When we name a man, his hand, his foot, his head, have several strengths, and being all one self-instant strength. Why all this many orderly is but one, and we can call it but one man's strength. He that hath far to go tells it by miles. Should he tell the steps, it kills his heart. The drops are infinite that make a flood, and yet thou knowest we call it but a rain. There is but one France, one king in France. That France hath no more kings. And that same king hath but the puissant legion of a king. And we have one. And apprehend no odds, for 1 to 1 is fair equality.
Shame and confusion, all is on the rout. Fear frames disorder, and disorder wounds where it should guard. O war, thou son of hell, whom angry ministers do make thy heaven, throw in the frozen bosom of our parts hot coals of vengeance. Let no soldier fly. He that is truly dedicate to war hath no self-love, and he that loves himself hath not essentially, but by circumstance, the name of valour. Let the vile world end, and let the premise flames of the last day knit heaven and earth together. Now, let the general trumpet blow his blast, particularities and petty sounds to cease. Wast thou ordained, dear father, to lose thy youth in peace, and to achieve the silvery livery of advised age, and in thy reverence and in thy chair days thus to die in ruffian battle? Even at this sight my heart is turned to stone. And whilst 'tis mine, it shall be stony. York, not our old men spares. No more will I bear babes. Tears virginal shall be to me, even as the dew to fire, and beauty which oft the tyrant reclaims shall to my flaming wrath be oil and flax. Henceforth will I not have to do with pity. Meet I an infant of the house of York, into as many goblets will I cut it, as wild Medea young Abishtrus does. In cruelty will I seek out my fame. Come, thou new ruin of old Clifford's house. As Aeneas did old Anchides bear, so bear I thee upon my manly shoulders. But Aeneas did bear a living load, nothing so heavy as these woes of mine. I, Edward, will use women honourably. Would he were wasted, marrow, bones, and all, that from his loins no hopeful branch may spring, to cross me from the golden times I look for. And yet between my soul's desire and me, the lustful Edward's title buried is Clarence, Henry, and his son young Edward, and all the unlooked-for issue of their bodies, to take their rooms ere I can place myself. I called premeditation for my purpose. Why then, I do but dream on sovereignty, as one that stands on top of promontory and spies a far-off shore where he would tread, wishing his foot were equal with his eye, and chides the sea that sunders them hence, saying, I'll lade it dry to have my way. So do I wish the crown, being so far off, so do I chide the means that keep me from it, and so I'll say, I'll cut the causes off, flattering me with impossibilities. My eye's too quick, my heart weens too much, unless my hand and strength could equal them. Well, say there is no kingdom then for Richard. Whatever pleasure can this world afford, I'll make my heaven in a lady's lap. I'll deck my body in gay ornaments. I'll witch sweet ladies with my words and looks. Oh, miserable thoughts! I'm more unlikely to accomplish 20 golden crowns. Why, love forswore me in my mother's womb. And for I should not deal in her soft laws, she did corrupt frail nature with some bribe. To shrink mine arm like a withered shrub, to make an envious mountain on my back where deformity sits, to mock my body, to shape my legs of an unequal size, to disproportion me in every part like to a chaos or unlicked farewell that bears no resemblance to damn. Am I a man then to be beloved? Oh, monstrous fault to harbour such a thought! For since this world affords no joy to me, but to command, to check, to bear such, I shall a better person than myself. I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown, and whilst I live to account this world but hell, until this misshapen trunk that bears this head be round and paled with a glorious crown. And yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lives stand between me and home, and I, like one lost in a thorny wood, that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown. And from this torment will I free myself, or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why, I can smile, and murder whilst I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall. I'll slay more gazers than the basilisk. I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, deceive more slyly than Ulysses could, and, like a scion, take another Troy. I can add colours to the comedian, change shape with Proteus for advantages, and even set the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this, and cannot get a crown? Were it farther off, I'll pluck it down. To leave my Julia, shall I be forsworn? To love fair Sylvia, shall I be forsworn? To wrong my friend, I shall be much forsworn, and even that power, which first gave me my oath, provokes me to this threefold perjury. Love bids me swear, and love bids me forswear. O sweet suggesting love, if thou hast sinned, teach me thy tempted subject to excuse it. At first I did adore a twinkling star, but now I worship a celestial sun. And heedful vows may teethily be broken, and he wants wit that wants unresolved will to learn his wit to exchange the bad for better. Fie, unreverend tongue, whose sovereignty so oft thou hast preferred with 20,000 soul-confirming oaths. I cannot leave to love, and yet I do. But there I leave to love where I should love. Juliet I lose, and Valentine I lose. If I keep them, I needs must lose myself. If I lose them, thus find I by their loss. For Julia Sylvia, Valentine myself. I, to myself, am dearer than a friend, and love is still most precious in itself. And Sylvia, heaven witness that made her fair, shows Julia but a swarthy. I shall forget that Julia is alive, remembering that my love to her is dead, and Valentine I'll hold mine enemy, aiming at Sylvia as a sweet friend. I cannot now prove constant to myself without some sly treachery done to Valentine. This night he meaneth with a corded ladder to climb celestial Sylvia's chamber window, myself in counsel his competitor. Then presently I'll give her father notice of their disguised and pretended flight, who, all enraged, will banish Valentine, for Petruchio he intends shall wed his daughter. But Valentine being gone, I'll quickly cross by some sly trick blunt Petruchio's dull proceeding. Love, lend me wings to make my purpose swift, as thou hast given me wit to plot this drift. Lavinia, look, thy foes are bound. Sirs, stop their mouths, let them not speak to me. But let them hear what fearful words I have to utter. O villains, Chiron and Demetrius, here stands the spring whom you have stained with mud, this goodly summer with your winter mixed. You killed her husband, and for that vile fault 2 of her brothers were condemned to death. My hand cut off, and made a merry jest, both her sweet hands, her tongue, and that more dear than hands or tongues, her spotless chastity, inhuman traitors. You constrained and forced. What would you say if I should let you speak? Villains, for shame, you would not beg for grace. Hark! Wretches, how I mean to martyr you. This one hand left is yet to cut your throats, and that Lavinia 'tween her stumps doth hold the basin to receive your guilty blood. You know your mother means to feast with me tonight, and calls herself revenge, and thinks me mad. Hark, wretches, I will grind your bones to dust, and with your blood and it I'll make a paste, and of that paste a coffin will I rear, and make 2 pasties of your unshameful heads, and bid that strumpet, your unhallowed dam, like to the earth, swallow her own increase. This is the feast I have bid her to, and this is the banquet she shall suffice on. For worse than Philomel did you use my daughter, and worse than progeny will I be revenged. Adarawa, my lords, disgrace not so your king, that he should be so abject, base, and poor, to choose for wealth and not for perfect love. Henry is able to enrich his queen, and not seek a queen to make him rich. So worthless peasants bargain for their wives as market men for oxen, sheep, or horse. Marriage is a matter of more worth than to be dealt in by attorneyship. Not whom we will, but whom his grace affects, must be companion of his nuptial bed. And therefore, lords, since he affects her most, it most of all these reasons bindeth us in our opinions that she should be preferred. For what is wedlock forced but a hell? An age of discord and continual strife, whereas the contrary bringeth bliss. and is a pattern of celestial peace. Whom should we match with Henry, being a king, but Margaret, that is daughter unto a king? Her peerless feature, joined with her birth, approves a fit for none but a king. Her valiant spirit, her undaunted courage, more than in women commonly is seen, will answer our hope in issue of a king. For Henry, son unto a conqueror, is likely to beget more conquerors, if with a lady of so high resolve as Margaret he be linked in love. Then yield, my lords, and conclude here with me, that Margaret shall be queen, and none but she. Thine eyes, sweet lady, have infected mine. Would they were basilisks to strike me dead. I would they were, that I might die at once, but now they kill me with a living death. Those eyes of thine from mine have drawn salt tears, shamed their aspect with store of childish drops. These eyes, which never felt remorseful tear, know when my father York and Edward wept to hear the piteous moans that Rutland made when black-faced Clifford shook his sword at him, nor when my warlike father, like a child, told the sad story of my father's death, and 20 times made pause to sob and weep, that all the standers by wet their cheeks like trees bedashed in rain. In that sad time my manly eye did scorn a humble tear. But what these sorrows thence could not exhale, thy beauty hath, making them blind with weeping. I never sued to friend or enemy, my tongue could never learn sweet soothing word. But now thy beauty is proposed my fee, my proud heart sues and prompts my tongue to speak. Teach not thy lips such scorn, for they were made for kissing, not for such contempt. If thy revengeful heart cannot forgive, lo, here I lend thee this sharp-pointed sword, which, if thou pleased, to hide in this dear press, and set forth the soul that adoreth thee, I lay it naked to the deadly stroke, and humbly beg to death upon my knee. Nay, nay, do not pause, for I did kill King Henry, but 'twas thy beauty that provoked me. Nay, now dispatch. 'Twas I that killed young Edward, but 'twas thy heavenly face that set me on. Take up the sword again, or take up me. I in Tiflis look strange and frown. Some other mistress hath thy sweet aspects. I am not Adriana, nor thy wife. The time was once when thou unurged wert thou, that never words were music to thine ear, that never object pleasing to thine eye, that never touch well welcome to thy hand, that never meat sweet savour to thy taste, unless I spake, or looked, or touched, or carved to thee. How comes it then, my husband, oh, how comes it that thou art thus estranged from thyself? Thyself, I call it, being strange to me, that undivided, incorporate, and dearer than thy dearest self's better half. Do not turn thyself away from me, for know, my love, as easy thou may fall a drop of water in the breaking gulf, and take and mingle thence that drop again, without addition or diminishing, as to take thyself from me, and not me to you. How dearly would it touch thee to the quick, should thou but hear I were licentious, and that this body, consecrate to thee, should by ruffian lust be contaminate? Wilt thou not spit at me, and spurn me, and hurl the name of husband at my face, and tear the stained skin from my harlot brow, and from this false hand cut the wedding ring, and break it with a deep divorcing vow? I know thou canst in death, or see thou doest. I am possessed with an adulterate blood. My blood is mingled with the crime of lust. For if we two be one, and thou proves false, I do digest the poison of thy flesh, being strumpeted by thy contagion. Keep then fair league and distance with thy true bed. I live unstained, thou undishonoured. And I, forsooth, in love, I, that have been love's whip, a very beadle to a humorous sight, a critique, nay, a night watch constable, a domineering pedant the boy than whom no mortal so magnificent. This wimpled, whining, purblind, wayward boy, this Signor Juliet, giant dwarf, Don Cupid, regent of love rhymes, lord of folded arms, the anointed sovereign of sighs and groans, liege of all loiterers and malcontents, dread prince of plackets, king of codpieces, sole imperator, and great general of my little heart, and I to be a corporal of his field, and wear his colours like a tumbler's hoop. What? I love? I sue, I seek a wife. A woman, which is like a German clock, still a repairing, and ever out of frame, and never going right, being a watch, but being watched that it may still go right. Nay, to be perjured, which is worst of all, and amongst three to love, the worst of all, a whitely wanton with a velvet brow, with two pitch balls stuck in her face for eyes, ay, and by heaven, one that will do the deed, even though Argus be her eunuch and her guard, and I decipher her, to watch for her, to pray for her. Go to. It is a plague that Cupid will impose on my neglect of his almighty, dreadful little mite. Well, I will love, pray, sigh, sue, and groan. Some men must love my lady, and some must joan. Oh, I am out of breath in this fond chase. The more my prayer, the less there is my grace. Happy is Romeo whereso she lies, but she hath blessed and attractive eyes. How came her eyes so bright? Not with salt tears, if so, my eyes were often washed in hers. No, no, for I am as ugly as a bear. For beasts that meet me run away for fear. Therefore no marvel, though Demetrius do fly my presence bus. What wicked and dissembling eye of mine made me compare with Hermes' fiery eye? 'Tis torture and not mercy. Heaven is here where Juliet lives. Every cat, dog, and little mouse, every unworthy thing live here in heaven and may look on her. But Romeo may not, he is banished. More validity, more honourable state, more courtship lives in carrion flies than Romeo. They may seize on the white wonder of dear Juliet's hand, and steal the immortal blessing on her lips, who, even in pure and vestal modesty, still blush, as thinking their own kiss is sin. This may flies do, and I from this must fly. And sayest thou yet that exile is not death? Hast thou no poison mixed, no sharp-grown knife, no sudden means of death, though ne'er so mean, but banish it to kill me? Banish it. O friar, the damned use that word in hell howlings attended. How hast thou a heart, being a divine, a ghostly confessor, a sin absolver, and my friend professed to mangle me with this word, banished? No matter where. Of comfort no man speak. Let's talk of graves, of worms, and epitaphs. make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors, and talks of wills, and yet not so. For what can we bequeath save our disposed bodies to the ground? Our lands are lives, and all are Bolingbroke's, and nothing can we call our own but death. And that small model of the barren earth which serves as paste and cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been disposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have disposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, or murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little seen to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable, and humid thus comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall, and oh, king, cover your heads, and mock not flesh and blood. With solemn reverence throw away tradition, form, and ceremonious duty, for you have but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, feel want, taste grief, need friends. Subjected thus, how can you say to me I am a king? Your grace shall pardon me, I will not beck. I am too highborn to be prophetied, to be a useful serving man or instrument to any sovereign state throughout the world. Your breath first kindled the dead coal of war between this chastised kingdom and myself, and brought in matter that should feed this fire, and now 'tis far too huge to be blown out with that same weak wind which enkindled it. You taught me how to know the face of right, acquainted me with interest to this land, yea, thrust this enterprise into my heart. And come ye now to tell me that John had made his peace with Rome? What is that peace to me? I, by the honour of my marriage bed after young Arthur, claim this land for mine. And now 'tis half conquered, must I back, because John hath made his peace with Rome? Am I Rome's slave? What penny hath Rome borne? What men provided? What munitions sent to underprop this action? Is not I that undergo the charge? Who else but I, and as such as to my claim are liable, sweat in this business and maintain this war? Have I not heard these islanders shout out Vive le Roi as I have banked their towns? Have I not here the best cards for the game to win this easy match played for a crown? And shall I now give her the yield it says? No, no, upon my life it shall ne'er be said. Signor Antonio, many times enough in the Rialto you have rated me about my moneys and usances. Still I have borne it with a patient shrug, for sufferance is the badge of all our trial. You call me misbeliever, cut-throat dog, and spit upon my Jewish gabardine, and all for that which is mine own. Well then, it now appears you need my help. Go to. You come to me and you say, Shylock, we would have moneys. You say so, you. Let it void your room upon my beard, and foot me as you spurn a stranger cur over your threshold. Moneys is your suit. What should I say to you? Shall I not say, half a dog money? Is it possible a cur can lend 3,000 ducats? Or shall I bend low, with a bondsman key, with bated breath, and whispering humbleness say this, Fair sir, You spit on me on Wednesday last, you spurned me such a day, another time you called me dog, and for these courtesies I'll lend you thus much moneys.
Do not think so. You will not find it so. And God forgive them that so much have swayed your Majesty's good thoughts away from me. I will redeem all this on Percy's head, and in the closing of some glorious day be bold to tell you that I am your son, when I will wear a garment all of blood, and stain my favours in a bloody mask which washed away shall scour my shame with it. And that will be the day when ere it lights that this same child of honour and renown, this gallant Hotspur, this all-praised knight, and thoughts of Harry chance to meet. For every honour sitting on his helms would they were multitudes. On my head my shames redoubled, for the time will come when I will make this northern youth exchange his glorious deeds for my indignities. Percy is but my factor, good my lord, to engross her glorious deeds on my behalf, and I will call him to so strict account that he shall render every glory up, yea, even the slightest worship of his time. Or I will tear the reckoning from his heart. This, in the name of God, I promise you. The which if he be pleased I shall perform. I hope your Majesty may solve the long-grown wounds of my intemperance, if not. The end of life cancels all bands, and I will die. 100,000 deaths ere break the smallest parcel of this vow.
Oh, pardon me, my liege, but for my tears, the moist impediments into my soul, I had forestalled this dear and deep rebuke ere you with grief had spoken. I had heard the course of it so far. There is thy crown, and he that wears the crown immortally, long guard it yours, if I affect it more than as your honour and as your renown. Oh, let me no more from this obedience rise, which my most inward true and duteous spirit teacheth the prostate and exterior bending. God witness me, when I here came in and found no course of breath within your Majesty, how cold it struck my heart. Oh, if I do fain let me in my present wilderness die, and never live to show the incredulous world the noble change I have purposed. Coming to you now, and thinking you dead, and dead almost, my liege, to think you were. He spake unto this crown as having sense, and thus upbraided it. The care on thee depending hath fed upon the body of my father. Therefore thou best of gold art worst of gold. Others less fine in carat is more precious, preserving life in medicine potable, but thou most fine, most honoured, most renowned, hath ate thy bearer up. Thus, my most royal liege, accusing it, I put it on my head, as to try with it, as with an enemy that had before my very face murdered my father, the quarrel of a true inheritor. But if it did infect my blood with joy, or swell my thoughts to any strain of pride, if any vain or rebel spirit of mine did with the least affection of a welcome give entertainment to the might of it, then let God forever keep it from my head, and make me as the poorest vassal is, that doth with awe and terror kneel to it. This can be no trick. The conference was sadly born, they have the truth of it from hearing. They seem to pity the lady, it seems her affections have their full bent. Love me! Why, it must be requited. I hear how I am censured. They say I will bear myself proudly should I not perceive the love come from her. They say also she would rather die than show any sign of affection. I never did think to marry, I must not seem proud. Happy are they that hear the detractions and put them to mending. They say the lady is fair. 'Tis a truth. I can bear witness, and virtuous. 'Tis so, and wise, but for loving me. By my troth, it is no addition to her wit, nor no great argument to her folly, for I will horribly be in love with her. I may chance some odd quirks and remnants of wit broken on me, for I have railed so long against marriage, but doth not the appetite alter? A man loves the meat in his youth he cannot endure in age. Shall quips and sentences and paper bullets off the brain awe a man from the career of his humour? No, the world must be peopled. When I said I would die a bachelor, I did not think I should live till I were married. Here comes Beatrice. By this day she is a fair lady. I do spy some marks and love in her. We are glad the Dauphin is so pleasant with us. His presence and your pains we thank you for. When we have marched our rackets to these balls, we will in France, by God's grace, play a set, shall strike his father's crown into the hazard. Tell him he hath made a match with such a wrangler that all the courts of France will be disturbed with chases, and we understand him well. How he o'ercomes us with our wilder days, not measuring what use we made of them. We never did value this poor seat of England, and therefore living hence did give ourselves to barbarous licence, as 'tis ever common that men are merriest when they are far from home. But tell the Dauphin, I will keep my state, be like a king, and show my sail of greatness, when I do rouse me in my throne of France. For this I've laid by my majesty, and plodded like a man for working days, but I will rise there with so full of glory, that I will dazzle all the eyes of France, yea, strike the Dauphin blind to look on us. And tell the pleasant prince this mock of his hath turned his balls to gunstones, and his soul shall stand sore charged for the wasteful vengeance that shall fly with them. For many a thousand widows shall this his mock out of their dear husbands, mock mothers from their sons, mock castles down, and some are yet ungotten and unborn, that shall have cause to curse the Dauphin's scorn. But this all lies within the will of God, to whom I do appeal, and in whose name tell you the Dauphin, I am coming on, to venge me as I may, and to put forth my rightful hand in a well-hallowed cause. So get you hence in peace. And tell the Dauphin, his jest will save a butt of shallow wit, when thousands weep more than did laugh at it. Convey them with safe conduct. Fare ye well. Think not I love him, though I ask for him. 'Tis but a peevish boy, and yet he talks well. But what care I for words? Yet words do well, and he that speaks them pleaseth those that hear. It is a pretty youth, not so pretty, but sure he's proud, and yet his pride becomes him. He'll make a proper man. The best thing in him is his complexion, and faster than his tongue did make offence, his eye did heal it up. He's not very tall, but for his years he's tall. His leg is but so, and yet 'tis well. There was a pretty redness in his lip, a little riper, a more lusty red than that mixed in his cheek. 'Twas just a difference between the constant red and mingled the mask. There be some women, Silvius, had they marked him in parcels as I have done, would have gone near to fall in love with him. But for my part, I love him not, I hate him not, and yet I have more cause to hate him than to love him. For what had he to do to chide at me? He said mine eyes were black, and my hair black, and that was, I remembered, scorn at me. I marvel why I answered not again. But that's all one. Admittance is no quittance. It must be by his death. For my part, I have no personal cause to spurn him but for the general. He would be crowned. How might that change his nature? There's the question. It is the bright day that brings forth the adder, and that craves wary walking. Crown him that, and then I grant we put a sting in him that at his will he may do danger with. The abuse of greatness is when it destroys remorse from power, and, to speak truth of Caesar, I have not known when his affection swayed more than his reason, yet 'tis common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face. And when at once he attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks into the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend, so Caesar may. Unless he may prevent. For since the quarrel bears no colour for what he is, fashion it thus. For what he is would run to these and these extremities, and therefore think him as the serpent's egg, which hatched would grow as his kind mischievous, and kill him in the shell. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw and resolve itself into a dew. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter? Oh God. How weary, stale, flat, unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Violet. Aye, fie, 'tis a unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely that it should come to this. But 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother, that he might not beteem the winds of heaven, visit her face too roughly, heaven and earth. Must I remember? Why, she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed for, and yet within a month. Let me not think on him. Frailty by name is one. A little month. Ere yet the shoes of old with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, all tears, why she, even she, oh God, a beast that wants discourse of reason would have mourned longer. Married with mine uncle, my father's brother, but no more like my father than I to Hercules. A little month. And yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her galled eyes she married. O most wicked speed to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. It is not, or cannot come to good. Break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. What a damned Epicurean rascal is this? My heart is ready to crack with impatience. Who says this is improvident jealousy? My wife hath sent to him, the hour is fixed, the match is made. Would any man have thought this? See the hell of having a false woman. My bed shall be abused, my coffers ransacked, my reputation gnawed at, and I shall not only receive this villainous wrong, but stand under the adoption of abominable terms by him that does me this wrong. Terms? Names? Ammonon sounds well. Lucifer? Well, Barbasson sounds well. Yet they are the devil's additions, the names of fiends. But Cuckold? Whittle? Cuckold? The devil himself hath not such a name. Page is an ass, a secure ass. He will trust his wife. He will not be jealous. I would rather trust a Fleming with my butter, Parson Hugh the Welshman with my cheese, an Irishman with my aquavitae bottle, or a thief to walk my ambling gelding, than my wife with herself. First she plots, then she ruminates, then she devises. And when they think in their hearts they may effect, they break their hearts, yet they will effect. Heaven be praised for my jealousy. 11 o'clock's the hour. I will prevent this, detect my wife, be revenged on Falstaff, and laugh at Page. I will about it. Better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late. 555. Cuckold, cuckold, cuckold. Nay, certainly you are. For to the king God hath his office lent, of dread, of justice, power, and command, hath bid him rule, and willed you to obey. And to add ample majesty to this, he hath not only lent the king his figure, his throne and sword, but hath given him his own name, calls him God on earth. What do you do then? Rising against him who God himself installs, but rise against God. What does this do to your own souls? Oh, desperate as you are, wash your foul minds with tears, and those same hands that like a rebel rise against a peace, lift up for peace, and those in reverent knees, make them your feet. To kneel, to be forgiven, is safer wars than you can make, whose discipline is riot. Into your obedience, why even your Hurley cannot proceed but by obedience. Tell me but this, what rebel captain, as mutinies are incident, by his name can still the rout? Who will obey a traitor? Or how well will the proclamation sound when there is no addition but a rebel to qualify a rebel? You'll put down strangers, cut their throats, kill them, possess their houses, and lead the majesty of law in line to slip him like a hound. Say now the king, as he is clement, if the offender mourn, should so much come to the short of your great trespass as but to banish you. Whither would you go? What country, by nature of your error, should give you harbour? Go you to France or Flanders, to any German province, to Spain or Portugal, nay, anywhere that not adheres to England? Why, you needs must be strangers. What would you think? To find a nation of such barbarous temper, that breaking out into hideous violence would not abode you a place on earth, whet their detested knives against your throats, spurn you like dogs, and like that God owed not, nor made not you, nor that the elements were not all appropriate to your comforts, but chartered unto them? How would you feel to be used thus? This is the stranger's case, and this your mountainish inhumanity. If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that sufficing the appetite may sicken and so die. That strain again. It had a dying fall. Oh, came my ear that breathes upon a bank of violets, stealing and giving odour. Enough, no more. 'Tis not so sweet now as it was once before. O spirit of love, how fresh thou art, that notwithstanding thy capacity receiveth as the sea, naught enters there of what validity and pitch soe'er, but falls into abatement and low price, even in a minute. So full of shape is fancies that it alone is high fantastical. You understand me not that tell me so. I speak not of flight, nor fear, nor death, but dare all imminence that gods and men address their danger in. Hector is gone. Who will tell Priam so? Or Hecuba? Let him who will a screech owl eye be called, go into Troy, and say there, Hector's dead. There is a word Priam will turn to stone. Make wells and niobes of the maids and wives, cold statues of the youth, and with but a word scare Troy out of itself. But march away. Hector is gone, there is no more to say. Stay yet. You, vile, abominable tents, that proudly pite upon our Phrygian plain. Let Titan rise as early as he dares, I'll through and through you. And thou, great size coward, no space of earth shall sunder our two hates. I'll haunt thee like a wicked conscience still, that mouldeth goblins swift as frenzy's thoughts. Strike a free march to Troy, with comfort go. Hope of revenge shall hide our inward woe. But I do think it is their husband's fault if wives do fall. Say they slack their duties and pour our treasures into foreign laps, or else break out into peevish jealousies, throwing restraint upon us, or say they strike us, or scant our former, having in despite why we have gauze, and though we have some grace, yet have we some revenge. Let husbands know their wives have sense like them. They see and smell and have their palates both for sweet and sour, as husbands have. What is it that they do when they change us for others? Is it sport? I think it is. Doth affection breed it? I think it doth. Is frailty that thus errs? It is so too. And have we not affections, desires for sport, and frailty as men have? Then let them use us well. Else let them know the ills we do, their ills instruct us so. What's this? What's this? Is this her fault or mine? The tempted or the tempted, who sins most? Not she, nor doth she tempt. But it is I, that lying by the violet in the sun, do as the carrion, not as the flower, corrupt with virtuous season. Can it be that modesty may more betray our sense than woman's lightness? Having waste ground enough, shall we desire to raise the sanctuary and put our evils there? Oh, fie, fie, fie. What dost thou, Angelo, or what art thou? Dost thou desire her most foully for these things that make her good? Oh, let her brother live. Thieves for their robbery have more authority when judges steal themselves. Do I love her that I desire to hear her speak again and feast upon her eyes. What is thy dream on? Oh, cunning enemy, to tempt a saint when saints doth bait thy hook. Most dangerous is that temptation that doth goad us on to sin in loving virtue. Never could the strumpet in all her double vigour, art and nature once stir my temper, but this virtuous maid subdues it quite. Even till now, when men were fond, I smiled and wondered how. Then I confess, here on my knee, before high heaven and you, that before you and next unto high heaven, I love your son. My friends were poor but honest, so's my love. Be not offended, for it hurts not him that he is loved by me. I follow him not by any token of presumptuous suit, nor would I have him till I do deserve him. Yet never know how that desert may be. I know I love in vain, strive against hope. Yet into this capituous and unteemable sieve I still pour in the waters of my love, and lack not to lose still. Thus, Indian-like, religious in mine error, I adore the sun that looks upon his worshipper but knows of him no more. My dearest madam, let not your hate encounter with my love for loving where you do. But if you yourself, whose aged honours cites a virtuous youth, did ever in so true a flame of liking wish chastely and love dearly that your Diane was both herself and love, oh, then give pity to her whose state is such she cannot choose, but lend and give where she is sure to lose, that seeks not to find where her search implies, but riddle-like lives sweetly till she dies. Oh, the fierce wretchedness that glory brings us! Who would not wish to be from wealth exempt, since riches only point to misery and contempt? Who would be so mocked with glory, or to live but in a dream of friendship, to have his pomp and all what state compounds, but only painted like his varnished friends? Poor honest lord, brought low by his own heart, undone by goodness. Strange, unusual blood, when man's worst sin is that he does too much good. Who dares be half so kind again? For bounty that makes God does still mar men. My dearest lord, blessed only to be accursed, rich only to be wretched, by great fortunes are thy chief afflictions, alas, kind lord. He's flung into rage from this ingrateful seat of monstrous friends, nor has he with him to supply his life, or that which can command it. I'll follow and inquire him out. I'll ever serve his mind with my best will. Whilst I have gold, I'll be his steward still. Thou, nature, art my goddess. To thy law my services are bound. Wherefore should I stand in the plague of custom to permit the curiosity of nations to deprive me? For that I am some 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother. Why bastard, wherefore base? When my dimensions are as well compact, my mind as generous, my shape as true, as honest madam's issue, why brand they us with base? With baseness, bastardy, base, base? Who, in the lusty stealth of nature, hath more composition and fierce quality than doth within a dull, stale, tired bed go to creating a whole tribe of fops got between sleep and wake? Well then, legitimate Edgar, I must have thy lands. Our father's love is to the bastard Edmund as to the legitimate. Fine word, legitimate. Well then, my legitimate, if this letter speed and my invention thrive, Edmund the base shall top the legitimate. I grow, I prosper. Now, gods, stand up for bastards. If it were done, when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could travel up the consequence, and catch with his success, that by this blow might be the be-all and the end-all, but here, upon this bank and shoal of time, we'd jump at the life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment, that we but teach bloody instruction, which, being taught, returned played the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. He is here in double trust. First, I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against a deed. Then, as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, being so clear in his great office, that his virtue shall plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off. And pity, like the naked new-born babe, striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim, horsed on the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which leaps itself and falls on the other.
All is lost. The foul Egyptian hath betrayed me. My fleet have yielded to the foe, and yonder they cast their caps up, and carouse together like friends long lost. Triple turn whore, dost thou hast sold me to this novice, and my heart makes wars only on thee. Bid them all fly, for when I am revenged upon this charm, I have done all. Bid them all fly, begone! Oh, son, thy uprise shall I see no more. Fortune and Antony part here, even here do we shake hands, all come to this. The hearts that spanieled me at heels, to whom I gave their wishes due to Scandi, melt their sweets on blossoming Caesar, and the pine is barked which overtopped them all. Betrayed am I. Oh, this false soul of Egypt, this grave charm, who I beck forth my wars and called them home, whose bosom was my crown, my chief end, hath, like a right gypsy played at fast and loose, beguiled me to the very heart of loss.
You common cry of curs, whose breath I hate as reeketh the rotten fence, whose loves I prize as the dead carcasses of unburied men, I banish you! And here remain with your uncertainty. Let every feeble rumour shake your hearts. Your enemies, with nodding of their plumes, fan you into despair. Have the power still to banish your defenders, till at length your ignorance, which finds not till it feels, making not estimation of yourselves, still your own foes, deliver you up as most abative captives to some nation that won you without blows, despising for you the city. Thus I turn my back. There is a world elsewhere. Great King, do you love to hear the sins they love to act? 'Twould braid yourself too near for me to tell it. Who has a book of all that monarchs do? He's more secure to keep it shut than shown, for vice repeated is like the wandering wind, blows dust in others' eyes to secure itself. And yet the end of all is brought thus dear. The breath is gone, and the sore I see clear. To stop the air would hurt them. The blind mole casts chopped heels towards heaven to tell the earth is thronged by man's oppression, and the poor worm doth die for it. Kings are earth's gods, in vice their laws, their will, and if Jove stray, who say Jove doth ill? It is enough, you know, and it is fit, what being more known grows worse to smother it. All love the womb that their first being bred. Then give my tongue like leave to love my head. Is there no way for men to be, but women must be hard workers? We are all bastards. And that most venerable man which I did call my father was, I know not where, when I was stabbed. Some coiner with his tools made me a counterfeit. Yet my mother seemed the Diana of her time. So doth my wife, the nonpareilles. Oh, vengeance, vengeance. Me, of my lawful pleasure she restrained, and prayed me of forbearance, did it with a prudency so rosy, that the sweet view of it might well have warmed old satin, that I thought her as chaste as unsunned snow. Oh, the devils! This yellow Iachimo, within an hour at first, or less. Perchance he spoke not, but like a full acorn boar, a German one cried "Oh!" and mounted. Found no opposition, but what he should look for should oppose, and she from encounter guard. Could I but find the woman's part in me, for there's no motion tends to vice in man, but I'll affirm it is the woman's, be it lying, note it hers. Flattering hers, deceiving hers, lust and rank thoughts hers, revenge is hers, ambitions, coveting, changes to prize, nice longing, slanders, mutability, all thoughts that name, nay, that hell knows, why hers in part and all, but rather all, for even in vice they are not constant. One vice but a minute or, for one not half as old as that. I'll write against them, curse them, detest them, yet 'tis greater skill in a true hate to pray they have their will. The very devils cannot plague her better. What study torments, tyrant, has for me? What wheels, racks, fires? What flailing, boiling in lead-sore oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? Thy tyranny, together with thy jealousy, fancies itself too weak for boys, too green and idols for girls of 9. Oh, think what they have done, and run mad indeed, stark mad. For all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. That thou betrayest Polixenes, 'twas nothing. That would but show thee of a fool inconstant and damnable ingrateful. Nor was't much that thou would have poisoned good Camillo's honour to have him kill a king. Poor trespasses more monstrous standing by, whereof I reckon the casting forth to crows thy baby daughter to be or none or little. Though a devil would have shed water out of fire it done't. Nor is it directly laid to thee, the death of the young prince, whose honourable thoughts high for one so tender, cleft a heart that could conceive a gross and foolish sire, blemished his gracious dam. This is not, no, laid to thy answer. But alas, O lords, when I said cry woe, the queen, the dearest, sweetest creature's dead. and vengeance for it's not dropped down yet. So farewell to the little good you bear me. Farewell, a long farewell to all my greatness. This is the state of man. Today he brings forth the tender leaves of hope. Tomorrow blossoms, and he wears his blushing honours thick upon him. The third day comes a frost, a killing frost, and when at once he thinks good, easy man his greatness is a ripening, nips his root, and so he falls as I do. I have ventured, like little wanton boys that swim on bladders this many summers in a sea of glory, but far beyond my depth. My high-blown pride at length broke under me, and has left me weary and old with service to the mercy of a rude string that must forever hide me. Vain pomp and glory of this world, I hate thee. I feel my heart new opened. Oh, how wretched is that man that hangs on princes' favours. There is betwixt that smile we would aspire to the sweet aspect of princes and their ruin. More pangs and fears than wars and women have. And when he falls like Lucifer, never to hope again. To every article. I boarded the kingship, now on the peak, now on the waist, the deck. In every cabin I flamed amazement. Sometimes I divide and burn in many places. The topmast, the yards, the bowsprit, oh, I would flame distinctly, then meet and join. Jove's lightning, the precursors, all the dreaded thunderclaps, more momentary in sight outrunning, were not the fires and cracks of sulphurous roaring. The most mighty Neptune did seem to besiege, and make his bold waves tremble, yea, his great trident shake. Not a soul but felt a fever of the mad, and played some tricks of desperation. All but mariners plunged in the foaming brine, and quit the vessel, now aflame with me, the king's son Ferdinand, with hair upstaring, more like reeds than hair, was the first man that leapt, cried, "Hell is empty, and all the devils are here." Banished the kingdom. 'Tis a benefit, a mercy I must thank them for, but banish the free enjoying of that face I die for? 'Twas a studied punishment, a death beyond imagination, such a vengeance that, were I old and wicked, all my sins could not pluck upon me. Palamon, thou hast to start now. Thou shalt stay and see her bright eyes break each morning against thy window, and let in life to thee. Thou shalt feed on the sweetness of a noble beauty, that nature ne'er exceeded, nor ne'er shall. Oh, good gods! What a happiness is Palamon! 20 to 1 he'll come to speak to her, and if she be as gentle as she's fair, I'll know she's his. He has a tongue that will tame tempests and make the wild rocks wanton. Come what can come, the worst is death. I'll not leave the kingdom. I know mine own is but a heap of ruin, and no redress there. If I go, he has her. I am resolved another shape shall make me or end my fortunes. Either way, I'm happy. I'll see her and be near her, or else no more.